Hey there guys, Zinda here of course from the Gold Land, and I know I said my next video was going to be about Mario and how Nintendo ruins everything, Mario Episode 4, whatever I was going to call it. I'm still working on that, I'm still going to get that out, but I really wanted to touch base with this particular franchise in general because it is very dear to me. It is one of my favorite franchises, if not tied with Zelda. Because of some things I will be going through. I'm going to be showing you a video from some footage from the game, and we'll go through a little bit more details on the storyline later. But, the reason why it is also very dear to me is because I introduced this particular franchise to one of my closest friends at the time, and he fell in love with the series and how I fell in love with Zelda. And if it wasn't for him getting so heavily into Shining Force, I would not have gotten so heavily into Zelda, thus creating a website and thus being the person I am now today. Another reason why I'm kind of doing this is kind of a tribute to him. He was my closest friend. He passed away back in 2005. I'm not going to go into details, but very young. And it was a very hard time in my life. So I figured, you know what? This is one of my favorite franchises as well, so we are going to delve into Shining Force for the Sega Genesis, the Sega CD, and the Game Gear. And we're going to show you some footage, we're going to show you why I like it a lot, I'm going to explain to you in comparison to Fire Emblem, and why I will not play the Fire Emblem series, and then we'll talk about the storyline. So, I hope you guys take this, and I really hope you enjoy it. So, alright, here comes the footage. Basically, this is what Shining Force is. So, this is one of my favorite series, like I said before, and this is pretty much what it is. It's kind of like Fire Emblem in the way that it's a strategy style type of game. And, so here we are. This is the final battle in the game. So I'm going to show you a couple things that I really like about the game over Fire Emblem. First of all, you raise 12 characters. Each character gets promoted into a class. They start as a specific class, and at level 20 they get promoted, and then they get turned into a different class. This is my leader. As you can see, he bears the name that I use. He's a hero. He's level 31, which is pretty good for this level, or this particular place in the game. The reason why I'm showing you the end of the game is because what I really like about this a lot is the power here in this game. And what I really like about Shining Force 2 especially, and I am using it currently, is that there's a code that you can punch in while the game is loading to control opponents. And I'm only doing it to show you the example here. Now this is my Vicar. He's level 48, which is incredibly high. He's pretty much my healer. When you're done moving a character, you hit the A button and it allows you to pretty much decide what you want to do. You can use an item, attack, use your magic, or you can stay. If you use your magic, as you can see, he has a magic meter. He then goes to the magic meter, or all his spells. He's got heal, aura, attack, and detox. The shadow that is flashing is how far away he can cast the spell. And let's say you want to do aura level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 4. Level 3 can heal 13 people. Level 2 can also heal 13 people, but only heals as much as like Aura level 1 does, which is the equivalent of heal level 1, but heal level 1 only heals one person from one space away. Now what's cool about Aura is that level 4 takes 20 magic points, and no matter where he is on the map, it automatically heals my entire party, completely full hit points. So, and he automatically gets 25 experience points too every time he does this, and you only need 100 experience points to go up a level. So let me show you an example of how this works here with Aura. So it goes through a little battle simulation, and then it goes through healing my entire party because they're currently all alive. So, as we go through here, what I really like about this game over Fire Emblem is the fact that not only is the storyline really good, and the graphics for a Sega Genesis game fantastic, but I love the battles, and I love that the battles take place differently, such as he's done. It is now his turn. So we're going to go to Slade's turn. He's a ninja. Now he can attack up close and personal, but he also has magic. So we're going to cast a spell. We're going to cast this one. Show you how powerful this is. Yeah, so what I like is that the turns take in order of the character's current agility. If you look at this guy's stats, he's got 88 hit points, 98 magic points. He's got Blaze level 3, Freeze 4, Bolt level 2. His attack is 77, his defense is 68, his agility is 76. It goes in order of agility. The movement is the amount of squares they can move, and the land effect up in the top left-hand corner is the percentage of how much of their movement is affected by what they're currently standing on. Because there's other battles in like forests and mountain ranges, things like that. Now he's got Freeze, so we're going to show you what Freeze looks like here. basically all my guys also are only getting 1 experience point because of the fact that they're too high level. They get lesser experience points the higher level they are. Now I'm going to control some of the opponents here to move them down to show you some examples. Now Chester starts as a knight. He only has legs that can walk, and when he gets promoted, he gets normally promoted to a paladin. However, in Shining Force, which is really cool, they give you different options. You have to find special items in order to promote people to different classes. So Chester, for example, instead of being a paladin, is now promoted to a Pegasus Knight, which gives him wings, which allows him to fly, which makes his movement amazingly high. He equips a spear so he can attack 2 spaces away. Character's dead. Jaha's also one of those characters where he starts as a warrior. He is supposed to get promoted into a gladiator, but a special item allows him to get promoted to a baron, which is the BRN, right before his level, which allows him to also equip swords. In this case, he's equipping an axe, because the strongest axe in the game is better than the strongest sword he can equip, being a baron. This is Peter. He's a phoenix. That's also his class. I know it's a race, but it's also his class. But basically, his ability is when he dies, he auto-revives. You don't have to pay money to revive him. He only can attack 1 space away, but it's fantastic. He's one of those characters that all by himself, you don't need to give him anything. You don't need to give him an item. You don't need to give him anything at all to make him amazing. So we're going to move this guy down here. Taya is a sorcerer. We're going to move her over here. Now Kazan starts as a mage. A mage normally gets promoted to a wizard, which is what Tyrant is over here. And Kaz would normally learn Blaze and some other spells as well. However, there's an item in the game that allows him to also get promoted into a sorcerer, which gives him these spells instead. And these spells are at their maximum at only level 2. They only can have a 5-person grid, which is like this. I'll show you what I mean. A 5-person grid is like this. It can hit 5 people within that grid, but the lesser the amount of people you direct an attack towards, the more damage it deals. So Atlas level 2 is the strongest spell in the game. Takes 23 magic points, and this is what it looks like. He summons. Yeah, auto death. Pretty ridiculous, actually. Now, the one thing I love about Shining Force in comparison to Fire Emblem is something I will show you here very, very soon. As soon as I get to my leader. Here he is. Now, normally he also learns Bolt, but he also learns a spell called Egress. Now, if you've never played Shining Force, you probably don't know what that is. Let me show you. Yeah, that's right. Not only are there battles, like in Fire Emblem, but the storyline takes place outside of battles, not little cutscenes within or between battles. Which means what? There's exploration in the game, which is what I love the absolute most. Now, this is a battle scene that takes place later in the game. Like I said, I'm way at the end here. I'm trying to show you an idea of, I mean, obviously you're not dumb, you know what exploring means, but the fact that you can go out and exploring every single village, every single terrain, is fantastic. So here I am. This chasm here happens really early in the game. You watch this explosion happen. It's pretty cool, actually. That explosion is the reason why I got hooked on this entire series and franchise. Now, but look at this, a castle. You have full exploration. You can go anywhere you want. You can try to hide behind trees. There's some areas where you can go behind trees and stuff. You can alter what your characters are currently holding. As you can see, he's got the Force Sword, which is the final weapon in the game. She's got the Misty Knuckles. You can craft your own weapons in this particular game. In Shining Force 2, which is the one that I'm showing you here, Shining Force 2. You can buy items. You can buy weapons here. There's a church here. He's not here right now. I think he's actually in the castle currently because of the storyline that happens. But he's the one that revives your guys. He's the one that promotes your guys. There's hidden areas throughout the entire game. It's just definitely a series that I think has been severely overlooked. And the best part about Shining Force especially is that there's 3 different canon storylines. And this particular game isn't the first one. So if you only want to play one particular series, you don't have to play them all in order to know the story. See, if the camera picks up, which it does a little bit, you can see that this little patch of grass right here is a little lighter. Sure shit. In Hidden Village. So anyway, basically what I'm trying to say here is, this game series has a lot more to offer than I think Fire Emblem does. It has the same ideas as promotion and things like that, all that kind of crap. But I think the idea of being able to promote people to different classes, the exploration, just the idea of trying to find everything, complete everything in the game is fantastic. This particular game too has 50 battles to go through. I'm pretty sure it's 50. It's a pretty extensive game. But like I said about the franchises, though, is that Shining Force 2 is in the same canonical series as Shining Force 1, Shining in the Darkness that came out for Sega Genesis, Shining Force CD, which was on Sega CD, Shining Force Final Conflict, which was only released in Japan for the Sega Game Gear, and Shining Wisdom, which was released for the Sega Saturn. So anything else Shining at besides that is a different story. Shining Force 3 and Shining in the Holy Ark is a different storyline. And then anything Shining after that is the third storyline. So if you want to play a Shining game, I would definitely recommend starting with the originals because the second story and the third story are absolutely terrible. They're just not good at all. The good stuff is the original franchise here. So I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what this game is really about in comparison to Fire Emblem, because I'm sick and tired of people always talking about Fire Emblem being the best strategy game ever, when quite honestly, I played both series, and it's not. So that's pretty much all I got to show you here on this particular end, and so yeah, so this is Shining Force 2. So basically, as I was saying, the Shining Force series is, like I said, is one of my favorite series of all time. It ranks up there, like, second to Zelda. It really, really does. And I just, like I said during the last segment, I just really kind of want to focus on Shining Force because I have a bunch of friends that are just huge Fire Emblem fans, and they just absolutely refuse to even try Shining Force. And I just don't understand why. I've told them so many times, I'm like, okay, if you like Fire Emblem, you're gonna like Shining Force. But they just never take the time to go do it, and I think it's because they think it's such an older game that it doesn't look good, or whatever the case may be. What I also don't like about Fire Emblem is the fact that it's got the rock, paper, scissors formula. Like, I think, what is it, swords I think are good against axes, and axes are good against spears, and spears are good against swords. I'm not a real big fan of that. I really like the idea of attack versus defense, like in Shining Force. I like the idea that agility is based off of, like, agility is the reason why your characters move the way they do, why turns are taking place sporadically as opposed to all good guys and all bad guys. That way you can't just get destroyed. I think just overall the game is just significantly more fair. So, and like I said before, the series really consists of 6 solid games. And I'm going to go here and show you a couple of them. I do have Shining in the Darkness complete in box. Now, see, Shining in the Darkness. This game is terrible. It is the first technical game made in the storyline, or made in the series of the first canonical series, and honestly, the sole reason why I only own it is because it is canonical to the first timeline. So it takes place 5th in the timeline, but was made first. This game you can entirely skip. Only get it if you become a big Shining fan like me. Plain and simple. The second one they made was Shining Force 1. I have it in a case, but I only have the cartridge for this particular game, Shining Force 1. Game is fantastic, takes place on 2 different continents. You take a ship from one continent to the other, it's split between chapters. And once you beat one chapter, you cannot go back to an old chapter, which kind of sucks because there's a lot of hidden things in the game, and you have to search everything in order to find everything. And there's a couple of really solid characters in Shining Force 1 that if you miss, you can't go back and get. Significant step up. It's played like how Shining Force 2 was that I showed you. Much, much, much better. There's a couple of ideas in here that I really loved a lot. There's a thing called a Sword of Light. It's like a yellow sword. If you use it as an item, like I showed you, you can use items during battle. It automatically casts Bolt level 2. And then you can use this, and then you get the Sword of Darkness in the game as well. And the Sword of Darkness, when you combine the Sword of Darkness with the Sword of Light, it creates an item or a weapon called the Chaos Breaker. And the Chaos Breaker is like, it's a green weapon. It's like a lightsaber almost. And that casts Freeze level 3 when you use it. Which is really cool. Shining Force 1 is the first game in the storyline. So, just so you are aware. Then we got Shining Force 2, which I also do not have the original cover art to, but I do have the game in the case here. Shining Force 2. And I also have the instruction manual for Shining Force 2, which is kind of cool. Shining Force 2 takes the cake. Is the best game in the entire series. Shining Force 2 is one of those must-play games if you get into strategy games. They took everything from Shining Force 1 and made it better. There's hidden stuff all over the place. They took out the chapters so you can rediscover everywhere. Shining Force 2 also takes place on 2 different continents that are apparently located next to the continents from Shining Force 1, but that wasn't known until later. I'll explain that in a little bit. Storyline is fantastic. I really, really enjoyed the game a lot. A lot of hidden items. You can actually promote your characters into different classes as opposed to just following the same, you know, cut and paste classes. You know, characters can get promoted into different things, learn different spells, whatever. It's really good. So, after Shining Force 2 takes place 4th in the timeline. After Shining Force 1 is Shining Force CD, which I have complete here. Case, instruction manual, even the little fuzzy thing. This is a very, very hard game to find. It's for Sega CD. This takes place 2nd in the timeline. Very difficult to find. In fact, the only 2 copies of Shining Force CD I have ever seen are the 2 copies I own. It's worth about maybe $150, $200 now, I believe, complete, is what I think it is up to. It's a little absurd. Shining Force CD is kind of neat, though, because it's got 3 different Shining Force games in it that all take place consecutively, including one of the Game Gear ones called Shining Force Sword of Haja. Now, Sword of Haja is right here. I hope that focuses, I can't really tell. But, Sword of Haja really has nothing to do with the storyline, and 2 of the Shining Force games in here also don't really have anything to do with the timeline, the major timeline. But the main game, Shining Force CD, does. It takes place right after Shining Force 1. Now, I was a big Shining Force fan and always have been. And we'll get to the next segment. It's kind of an incomplete thought, I know. But I was always a big Shining Force fan. Always have been, especially because I grew up with Shining Force 1 and 2. Now, what really turned me on to the franchise a lot is what Zelda did. There's a lore to it that is hidden and mysterious that you have to explore and find and create theories about, etc., etc., etc. And that's what turned me on the most about it. Now, don't get me wrong, I've loved Shining Force 1 and I love Shining Force 2, but I did not know there were other Shining Force games such as Shining Force CD or Sword of Haja for the Game Gear. So I started doing some research online. This is a while ago now, probably back in like 2000, 2001. Shining Force actually has this lore, and this is what I was telling you about before, how I was going to get to this, that at the beginning of Shining Force 1, there's a storyteller, and she's telling you about, you know, the rough history or whatever, whatnot, what's going on, and then you click on your record to start. But the fairy, her name is Simone, she's sitting in front of you, and she has this book open, and there's a couple of, like, pixelated islands on this book, and these pixelated islands look suspiciously a lot like the countries or the continents that you visit in Shining Force 1 and in Shining Force 2. So it got people thinking, okay, well maybe these games are connected, maybe these worlds are connected, maybe they are all connected somehow. And sure enough, if you go through Shining Force 2, there is a spot where they mention about Dark Dragon, and Dark Dragon is a character, the main end boss in Shining Force 1. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but how far apart do they take place? Well, in Shining Force 2, you find a couple characters. One character is called Howl. Your main character, if you don't name him, his default name is Bowie. Or Bowie, I don't know how it's pronounced, I don't care either. But it turns out that Bowie is apparently like the grandson, or no, he's the son of Kain, I believe, from Shining Force 1, and Kain is the brother of your main leader in Shining Force 1. So it's all kind of connected. So I was like, well, what game connects these together? Only one game does. Shining Force Final Conflict. When I found out that this game exists, I crapped my pants. This game was only released in Japan, and only for the Sega Game Gear. This is the game that connects them all together. Here it is. I have it complete with book, plastic, box, etc., etc. This game takes place 3rd in the franchise. So, basically, how it connects it together, and this is going to be spoilers, so if you don't want it ruined, then you know, turn this off, but just letting you know that it's very hard to find. I paid $90 to $100 for that game to get it into my collection. It's probably, if not the most prized possession in my collection. It connects it together. You actually play, one of the characters that you play as on your team in Shining Force Final Conflict is Howl, who grows up to be an old man in Shining Force 2 that you meet him. One of the characters that joins your team in Shining Force Final Conflict is Max, who is the leader of your team in Shining Force 1. Odd-Eye, a character named Odd-Eye, he's a greater devil. You kill him in Shining Force 2. You actually fight against him in one of the battles. He's in your team in Shining Force Final Conflict as a greater devil. But the storyline in Final Conflict is that Zeon, which is the final boss in Shining Force 2, is Odd-Eye's leader. And Dark Dragon and Zeon do not see eye to eye. They're enemies. So Odd Eye joins your team into defeating Dark Dragon because Dark Dragon is coming back from being apparently destroyed from Shining Force 1. It's kind of confusing if you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's cool that a bad guy, a greater devil character, who you kill in Shining Force 2 is actually part of your force in Final Conflict because you're fighting against a common foe, even though you know he's a bad guy. It's phenomenal. It's so well done. The bridge between it is what hooked me to the series completely. So I just want to let you know that if you become a Shining fan, definitely look into these games. They're hard to find, but they are definitely good games, and they are really, really cool to have. And now the final game in this particular franchise is Shining Wisdom. This one is for the Sega Saturn. I only have it in Japanese as well. And this game takes place 6. I haven't played it, don't know it, don't care. Because honestly, the main storyline is, you know, it's Shining 1 through Shining 2. You know, but it's so well done. It's really, really good. I really honestly recommend it. Now, anything else Shining besides that? Shining Force 3 and Shining in the Holy Ark are part of a different franchise, a different storyline. And then everything else Shining after that, I mean, there's like Shining Tears, Shining Feather, Shining Soul 1 and 2. There's Shining this and that. There's Shining Neo or whatever for the PS2. They're all bad. Don't need to play them. Don't care. Who cares? It does not matter. If you want to get into the Shining series, I recommend these series. What's really cool too is that if you have them all, you never have to collect anything else again. The storyline's done. So that is my video on Shining Force, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you next time.